Now I've got a little bit of time today, and what I've been doing, I've been trying to change. I've had 5 tires to change. I've got 2 changed already. This will be the 3rd one in about a month. And I decided today would be a good day to get the new rear tire on the RD, since I wanted to ride the RD this weekend if possible. It looks like we may have another 2-stroke day, and the tire is already into the bars. And it's amazing how quick these tires wear out when you ride 100 or more miles every day, 7 days a week. Now what happens, and some people don't really understand why it happens, when a tire gets flat in the middle, which is usually what happens, since what works against us is we have about a 40-mile ride to where the good riding starts on highways, and then 40 miles back. So a lot of that tire gets worn out in the middle, and this tire now has a shape. It's round, flat, round. So, and what happens? You lose the handling because it's constantly going up over the high spot of the tire, so that the handling gets very, very iffy, non-linear, whatever you want to call it. Now, there's a couple little tricks to changing, and I'll try to put them on a video. Changing the RD rear tire, and the biggest one is we don't want to scratch the rims. These are painted rims, painted or powder coat rims, or maybe you just don't want to scratch any rims. Well, so there's a couple little things I do to make this as easy as possible. I'll try to share them on this video. And of course, step one, while we're pulling a tire, the first thing is it doesn't look like we got a lot of sun today, and it's going to be about 80 degrees, so I want to try to get the tire warmed as much as possible. The warmer you can make the tire, if you can get it out in the sun. And notice I don't have it laying flat in the driveway. I have it aimed right at the sun like a solar panel. Try to get as much of that heat into the tire. The warmer the tire is, the easier it's going to go on every time. Now, a couple of things that make this tire change a little more complicated than normal. We don't have a center stand, but even if we did, this would be a very awkward change because we have to support the bike. So as a safety thing, I always have to come along. It's not under tension. It's just there just in case the bike does tip. It's up on a car jack. I have a rod that goes through and this is a great thing on RDs when you use these type of pipes. You never can use the center stand when you have these kind of pipes, almost never anyway. And so what happens, you need a way to jack the bike up. Well, there's just a 1/2-inch rod from Lowe's with a nut on the end. You can even see, I think I wrote on it, lift RD here or whatever, just to remind me because of the Alzheimer's I have here. But anyway, just now what that allows us to do right now, I could spin the back wheel. So I'm up and up. But the problem is with these pipes, if you look at the pipes, you're not going to be able to get the axle out without taking the exhaust system off. Well, I don't want to take the exhaust system off. There's an easier way. The easier way is I'm going to loosen the nuts up here. Just pull these away from the shocks. Pull the shocks away from the frame. The wheel's going to drop down enough that I'm going to be able to get that out. And that's, by the way, getting this whole, the step 1, step 2, step 3, that makes this, it doesn't make it easy, it just makes it as easy as possible for this type of a change. Now, if you had a center stand, piece of cake. We don't. And if you had the stock exhaust system, you could pull those bolts out, pull the axle out over the mufflers. Don't have to take the mufflers off. If I remember right, it's been a long time since I had the mufflers on a bike. But anyway, to be able to change a tire in, like, let's say between an hour and 2 hours, get it balanced, get the wheel cleaned up and everything. This step 1 is to somehow support the bike. In this case, the jack works great, and I have the safety thing of the come along. I would not want to do this with just the jack, just in case, and you never know when you're leaning on stuff, and there's just a lot of stuff that could get damaged here very easily. So I try to take every precaution possible. And again, these are available in Harbor Freight. They're about 20 bucks. The strap is about 10, so for 30 bucks, you don't run the chance that you're going to knock your bike over. And even in this garage, it's carpeted. It's double carpeted in most places, just to avoid damage if something does happen. But it doesn't mean it's just, the safety thing is always worth every penny. I just feel like I get my money's worth out of it. And on some bikes, I can just pick the bike up with that. But in this case, this is the easiest way to do it, and I've done this a few times. This will make it go pretty quickly. So now, just having the shocks disconnected, they're free on the top. The wheel runs down to the ground. And what it's going to do now, I've got both sides done, of course. Now I have enough clearance on this that I can loosen the axle bolt and take the axle out. But it's a lot easier on this project. Of course, I've done this before, and I know you can get yourself into a bind in a hurry. You got to get the caliper off the disc and get it up out of the way. And that, I'll just get a couple of zip ties, tie that up out of the way, and then we're ready to pull a wheel. Now the next thing is I've got the nuts off just to tap out the axle. Get the chain off, push the wheel forward, get the chain off the sprocket. Make sure that's up. We're going to have to pick this up to get this off because this has a retaining bolt in there. Sometimes you can just get it to slide off, look, which I did. Fantastic. The other side is out already. This side we just have to get this off. And just like magic, our worn out, squared off tire is ready to clean up that rim and pull it apart. And one of the things I always insist on doing while I have the wheel off the bike, and I do it with simple green, undiluted simple green, a couple of swipes, and then throw the microfiber in the wash, only with other microfibers, never with your wife's underwear, that's for sure. And when I'm all done, I'll clean the brake rotor to get the simple green off with brake part cleaner. But I really do like to have everything just easier to work on here. And since one of the things for me is I do enjoy working on motorcycles, you know what I do enjoy is the sharing of the stuff on YouTube, and it's funny. I'll give you a good example why I love YouTube. I just had the ice maker in Karen's refrigerator go bad. And I said, yeah, it's $127 for a new part. Well, we didn't have ice for a couple of those hot days. And I finally looked on YouTube, and they showed the simple cure. And it was just a reset. You have to reset it. I did the reset, took it apart, reset it. Works perfect. Saved me 127 bucks. I don't know why that makes me happy, but it does. Maybe it makes you happy too, I don't know. But anyway, I do like to work neat and clean. Some people don't care. I do. And it's as simple as that. Now, one of the things I have here, let me show this on. I've shown this before. I have a paint stirring stick and a microfiber. And what it allows me to do on a lot of the rims, there's these little nooks and crannies. This lets you get right in there. Once I clean this up, I'll put once it's done, if I do chip the rim or have a problem, black is relatively easy to repair. Powder coating, a little bit more difficult, but what I've seen with a lot of powder coating, not a lot, but enough that I'm very aware of it. Once it starts chipping, it means the wheel wasn't prepped correctly, and usually it's going to chip some more. The nice thing about paint, one of the advantages, is unlimited color choices. Number two, relatively inexpensive, and you can repair it. If you do googe up a rim, you can repair it. But I do like to work with the parts clean. I wanted to show this. I've had this issue with a lot of other Battle Axe BT45s. Had them on the GS for a while, didn't like them at all, because here's what I didn't like. They wear okay, but they don't wear evenly. It's almost like they have the compounds not figured out right. They always seem to wind up where there's still plenty of rubber on them, but right, they just wear out into a square shape, and then the bike starts handling wobbly, and I don't know. I'm not sure that that they all do that, but I've had the last two I've replaced have been square. The GS1 square, I replaced it with Michelin. The Michelin is wearing nice and round, and these always seem to square off while there's still tons of rubber on the side, and it's not like it's a mystery to me why it happens, but only with Bridgestones. The Pirellis and the Michelins wear much rounder, and you don't get that funny handling in the bike when the tires have 5,000-6,000 miles on them. Okay, next step, once everything is cleaned up a bit, get the valve stem out, get all the air out of the tire. This is the tool, obviously, and we've made a lot of videos of changing tires various ways with a heat box, just by leaving them in the sun. Every possible way I can show. And actually, for me, it makes it a little more interesting because every time I change a tire, I try to try something new that I haven't tried before. A lot of times it doesn't work, it isn't any better. Sometimes you stumble upon something. Anyway, I want to get the little tire valve out of there. Now, because we have the garage double carpeted, sometimes you can really get away with this. I wanted to just show this. You can just stand on the rim of the tire, especially if you're like me, you've got a big beer belly. This works out great. You can just break the bead with your weight. Don't even need the the Harbor Freight tool. Now, I used to use Dawn, I use Simple Green. Any kind of soap is good, or if you have some money, you can buy that stuff Luciano has that, I don't know, it's like made for this project. Before I do anything, I always want to get plenty of soap, plenty of something on that rim. I want to bend this tire. Now, I tried to get this whole thing on camera and was not successful. And this particular tire turned out to be a real challenge to get off. And I wanted to be real careful not to really scratch the rim or pinch the tube or whatever. So I'm really taking my time here, but not to bore anybody to death. But it has really been a challenge. Now, I thought one of the things I could do here, take advantage of this, one of the things that I haven't shown is how to cut a tire off. You don't even need to break this to do that, but maybe we'll see if we can do it, or if this thing pops right off. It never pops right off. What a daydream that is. It's always a question of fighting it right to the very end, right to the very end, right to the very end. And now let's see if it's our lucky day and we didn't pinch the tube. Boy, will I be happy. I hate that pinch the tube thing. Now, I know I've never shown this. A couple of times I wanted to, and it just, I don't know, old age, I guess. But it's easy. This is an easy way to do it, especially if you have a tube tire, because what happens when you go to take the second half of the bead off, sometimes you can pinch the tire. You can always pinch the tire. This, I got a little nylon block. There's always going to be, no matter what tire you have, there's going to be a steel bead in here. Once you break the steel bead, you can then hacksaw, or in our case, we have a roto zip. A roto zip, for people that don't know, it's just one name for it. This is a Dremel tool. You can do it with a Dremel tool. It'll just take a little longer. Or if you have a roto zip is a heavy-duty Dremel tool, really heavy-duty. This is what the dentists use when they do hemorrhoid operations. Anyway, this is a parting wheel. It'll usually, if it's our lucky day, and you never know if it is, so far it's been pretty good, it'll cut through that bead, and then from that point on, there's no chance we're going to damage the rim. Now, especially if you had one of these $1,000 rims, I just can't imagine that you'd be wanting to risk it. Anyway, this is a powerful tool. You got to use it with caution. Use every tool with caution, obviously. All I want to do, I just want to show, I want to cut through that bead. All I want to do with this tool. See the spark? From this point on, you could use a hacksaw. You know, the objective is not to damage the rim. You could also use, this is a roto zip tool. A roto zip tool will work in a Dremel tool. That's not a problem. You can always make that work, but it just takes more time. The real roto zip has a lot more power. I want to make it as short as possible. And this gets smoky when you do it. Well, with the roto zip, we're right up to the end. We just need to cut that steel cable. And by the way, it's best with a Dremel tool just to or a roto zip. Just go slow, let the tool do the work. If you force it, nothing good happens. Now, certainly not a big deal, but I think basically we've gotten the job done. We've shown a different way to do it. Pretty much you can just take this off. Let's see if we've damaged the tube. That's the main thing. Do not want to damage the tube. Kind of annoying. I will take this apart. Now with that tire off, this is always an adventure mounting a tube. It's always to your advantage to have the tire hot, warm. And no matter what method you use, whether you're just going to put it on with Gorilla Tape, you're going to put it on with tools, but with a tube tire, it's always a problem with that tube. No matter what method you use, it's a problem. The next relatively easy step, I just put some air in the tube just to see if I had pinched it any place. Again, because I'm not doing this, especially RD, not doing this every day, I don't see any bubbles. I'll check the other side. While I have it here, I'll wipe some of the schmutz off anyway. Try to clean it up as much as possible. But right now, if we had to get another tube, right now is the time to do it, not after you do all the work of putting a tire on. Boy, this was a real struggle. This is probably one of the most difficult tires to mount that I've ever mounted. And now, just hope that after all this work that we haven't pinched the tube. Obviously we're going to find out in a few minutes. This Sport Demon tires I love Pirelli Sport Demon tires. Got them on 2 of the bikes now, but they are unbelievably stiff to mount. Now what I did, I put in 50 pounds of air just to make sure the tire's seated, everything's seated nice. And I'm going to wait now. While I'm waiting, give it 20 minutes or so. I'll check that it's not, I'll run some Windex around the edge, check the valve. With a tube tire, it's difficult to see if it's going to leak. I don't want to put the whole bike together if it's going to leak. But what I can do in the meantime, I can get in there with my simple green, clean that all up in there, get that all nice and clean before it's ready to go. And then the last thing of this, just got to get out the balancer and see if it's anywhere close to balancing. This was really a difficult tire change. I can't tell you. It made me appreciate tubeless tires. I only have to do this every so often, but boy, it is a lot less fun than changing a modern tire. It's always amazing to me how much goop gets in there. And just like when you change a chain or the countershaft sprocket or anything, that goop just builds up. And it's so much nicer to work on when it's clean. Now I took a quick look at how this was going to balance. And usually the Pirelli tires, they balance real well. Now I have my own way of balancing here. I want to see it stop in every position. Boy, that's real close. That's certainly close enough for me. And I have spent, in the past, I've spent hour after hour trying to get every little thing down to the last little bit, and I didn't see any difference when this is plenty close. And it balanced, the nice thing is it balanced with no weights at all. And the last thing before we actually install this, holding air just the way it should, no problem. Looks like we're really close on balance. I was really surprised how close that balanced. That was amazing. Not every tire balances like that. And I hate having those weights. I think they're ugly. You know what I did? I polished up all of the hardware, ran it on the buffing wheel before I put the final assembly on this. Another nice little tip is these are paint stirring sticks to hold the caliper open when we go to put this together, because this is a little involved getting this all together in one piece, and then if you have a helper, it's nothing. When you're doing it yourself, and then I have to sit on the ground to do it and then get that axle to slide through. Now one of the tricks on this final assembly thing is that you have to have the caliper spread when you slide the wheel in. Of course, now I got to put the bolts in the caliper. But now I can raise, because I've got the bike up in the air, I can raise the swing arm. Like I said, I can try to raise the swing arm. Get the other shock out of the way temporarily. Get this up on where it should be. There we go. Now with that up there, now I can put the nuts on. I ran everything on a buffing wheel. It looks so nice and clean. And these are the only two parts I don't lock tight. Everything else is, I put it back together. Got our trusty tuba Loctite. All these caliper bolts have to get Loctited. I've got to adjust the chain. And I think one of the future videos that I'm going to try to make is the video on doing this just makes it too. Boy, oh boy. A video on how to adjust the chain. A lot of people don't understand a chain isn't equal. There's a tight spot, a light spot. I'm going to try to share what I know, whatever that's worth. Okay, these all have to go in. Get the Loctite out. Well, this is an ass breaker, believe me. This is one of the most difficult tire changes. I always say I got the two worst bikes in the world. The GS 1100 is just an absolute pain in the ass to change a tire on. But, boy, when there's a new tire on a bike, you can't imagine, at least you can't imagine if you've ever had it. You get a bike that's got these funny little things in corners and everything. You put on a new tire or a new set of tires and they're round and it's just linear. It's just beautiful. Well, anybody that doesn't know what that feels like, then you know, like I spent quite a few hours getting this all cleaned up, prepped, Loctited, put back together and everything, but it's going to be a joy to ride the next time I ride. And now for the really hard part. This is the really hard part. You have a brand new tire. We got to go stuff that tire in. Wow. I am so glad that that's done. I have come to hate tubeless tires. You know, but if you think of what the dealers charge now, if you just bring the bike in, it's almost like these tires are free. And free is good. That's why it's a good idea whether you're fixing your refrigerator or mountain tires. YouTube is a good resource. And while that's warming up, I gotta go get suited up. And hey, thanks for watching. So tell me how this is working out. You having a lemonade sale? How does this lemonade sale work?
No, this was his.
Miles?
I think so.
How's the lemonade sale work?
It works.
Mommy makes the lemonade and you collect the money.
Okay.
That's pretty good.
He's the
I should be job.
Are you the entrepreneur here?
He's the pitch man.
This is how Snapple got started, you know.
Mommy, can we get away?
He's okay. He's all right.
Did you make this sign?
Yes.
Okay, how much did you make and how much did you buy? Show me what you made. Delicious cookies. Did you bake the cookies?
Yes.
Okay, and you made the sign. I see you colored it in. I see you put a picture of Grandpa Windy up there. That's nice.
No, that's me.
That's you! Ha! Stand by there. I want to see. Is that? Oh, yes, it is you. I'm sorry, that is you. Wow.